we've got quite a lot in common because we're roughly the same age. Although you finally decided when you were born.
Yes.
How did why was this an issue? It's not as though you were born sort of in the 1800s or something.
No, that's right.
Well,
that's it. Yes, I'm a reincarnation of an ancient spirit.
Liszt, actually. You look
well, that's
like
right.
Liszt.
Yes, bit of Liszt.
Yes.
Yes, I thought that actually. No, it was one of those odd things. Somebody got the date wrong once, and it makes its way into Wikipedia, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, you have to fight it. And then, of course, once it gets on Wikipedia, all the newspapers, that's where their go-to information about you is. So they then print it in all the papers.
Absolutely.
So then it becomes that. And so I would get these 2 birthdays I had. It was brilliant. For years, I'd have my actual birthday, and then all these people sending me gifts. Oh, happy birthday! No, it was you missed it by a month.
Yeah,
so,
that's amazing.
And with the world of social media, what it is, the information like that it almost gets into the bloodstream of the internet. You can't remove it. Well, one thing I'm very glad that has gone is I don't know if you know, it was a few years ago now, about 3 years ago. It was on Twitter that I died, and it said actor comedian Bill Bailey sadly passed away. Tributes coming in.
Brilliant.
And I read this. I was in my hotel room.
Funny.
And I was looking at this, and my tour manager, he
called you up to check.
He phoned me up. He phoned me up. He said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Well, I'm not dead, so clearly I'm winning on that score." But it turned out it was a DJ in Kentucky called Bill Bailey, and it had come in into the BBC late at night, and someone slightly bleary-eyed had seen Bill Bailey and just put this press release out, and then realised the mistake, but not fast enough for the screenshotters of Twitter.
Yeah, and it's funny because Bill Bailey isn't an unusual name, but yet there is only one Bill Bailey.
There's actually 2 Bill Baileys. The lead singer of Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose. His real name is Bill Bailey.
How interesting.
So there's something that.
So you've never thought about going back to your original name of Mark? Mark Robert?
Mark Robert. No, I mean the thing is, it's so much part of me now, who I am. My name and my comedy is just it's synonymous with that. So I think it'd be quite difficult to kind of reclaim my original name. So many people know me as Bill now. I feel like I'm a Bill.
Yep. I mean, even saying Billy doesn't sound right at all.
No.
Billy Bailey.
Billy Bailey. I know.
Because then you could be a man or a woman.
Oh, Billy Bailey. That's right. It could be. Yes. Yes.
But I mean, when I look through, all of the things you've done, which is just absolutely enormous. I feel as though in my own situation I've been sleepwalking in comparison. No, truly, it's just so interesting. I suppose, reading about the variety of things and also I suppose the perseverance, because I think that what we have when we're standing up in front of an audience is this kind of, I suppose, resilience and toughness and in a way that's a kind of form of listening, because when you walk off stage, I don't know if it happens to you, but very rarely do I walk off stage and think, well done, Evelyn. You're always analysing, you're always nitpicking, you're always weeding at what you're doing, you're always thinking, back to the drawing board tomorrow. And I would imagine, perhaps, is that the same?
Very much
for
so.
you?
Yes, that's exactly my own experience, and that is that I am my most forensic critic of the performance. Oh, that could have been better. I could have done that. That wasn't quite right. That joke didn't quite land. If only I'd done that later, then I could have incorporated a setup, and that would have made that. All of those things happen. In fact, after a show, I often just sit in my dressing room for, could be an hour or two, making notes on the show. And I always have an audio doesn't matter whatever show it is, I have an audio of the show that I can then listen to and pick through it and listen to the, you know, parts of the show, seeing if anything could be worded in a different way. Or, you know, conversely, sometimes the routines, the words just land in a certain way that I think, that's how I should have done it. You know, that's the way it should have been done. Somehow, something happened, like somebody shouted out and interrupted my train of thought, but then that actually allowed me to step back a bit and analyse what I was doing and kind of explain what I was saying about in a clearer way or a more succinct way. So, it never stops, really.
So can you imagine, would there be a difference, do you think, that if you had to give, I'll call what you do a performance, really, but without an audience? I mean, how much are you really playing on that audience? You know, it's
well, that's right. There's definitely. I always say that, you know, a comedy performance is it's the sum of all the parts. You know, so the words that I say, the routines, the ideas that I come up with, they require the audience to respond to that, and that gives it timing. It makes the thing sing. You know, it gives it a kind of rhythm that perhaps would not have been there if it was just me talking in a room, which obviously I do quite a lot, just to sort of try the words out. But it's very much a collaborative process, I think. And very often I write, things will occur to me in the performance. Like ideas will occur to me while I'm saying something and the audience are responding to it. And I have an idea and I think, of course it could go that way. And so performance is very much the key, really, to what I do, because it lets you know. Firstly, comedy is quite. I mean, it's pretty brutal. You know, it's like it's either it is funny or it isn't. You know, if there's drama, or if there's poetry, or if there's spoken word of any kind, people might internalise their reaction to it, and they might sit there and they might not be enjoying it, but they won't be letting you know. But comedy is.
I get that.
It's pretty sort of, you know.
Yes.
It's quite binary. It's like no, no, nothing, or yes, laughter. You know what I mean? So there is, and I talk a bit about this, you know, sometimes in the show, and that there's a sort of tyranny almost of the laugh with what you're talking about, because it's a comedy performance, so people are expecting to laugh, so it has to be funny.
Yes.
So the challenge is trying to, you know, find subjects and experiences and observations that I can talk about that broaden hopefully the sort of subject matter that you can talk about in comedy while still it being an entertaining show.
And I think what I've observed is that you know, everything that you address, whether it's through sound, through music, or through words, is what you've experienced.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny how, you know, you may make a joke about a police siren or an ambulance siren or something like that we're all quite familiar with, and yet, you know, your take on that makes us completely listen to that in a different way. I mean, something so basic and so normal that we might experience, you know, several times a week or something, and it suddenly, you know, has a different take, and we smile on that, or we think, oh crumbs, that's really interesting. You know, and that I find really, really fascinating. So I suppose it's that observational listening skills that come together. So it's looking, it's feeling, it's thinking about something that's pretty mundane otherwise.
Yes, I think that's true. I think that, you know, you mentioned the sirens. I mean, I think that, as you say, all of these things are things that I've heard, listened to, observed, and you know, part of, I suppose, the process, the creative process that leads to the comedy show is being open to those moments, to be able to be receptive, to listen to the everyday sounds, listen to, I mean, and music as well. There's a lot of music in the show, but I mean that's down to identifying certain patterns or certain kinds of music or certain kinds of sound, which perhaps we've all become very familiar with and very comfortable with, but then highlighting it and bringing it to the stage in a comedic way so that you can actually see the absurdity of it, all the patterns, all the ways that this, it can be, like you say, the sirens, for example, the European ones are more lyrical, the British ones are quite sort of, utilitarian. Out of the way, there's a fire, rather than this sort of, more, kind of, sort of continental.
We'll have a coffee before
We'll have a
the fire.
coffee. Yeah, there's a fire. We can take our time, And so, but that's again part of the process that has to be prepared quite a lot. I mean, you mentioned talk about after the show, after a performance, you're quite analytical about it. You kind of you critique your own performance, and I think that with the music stuff, I'm probably more perhaps more critical of that because I want it to be performed right. I think that for the music for a routine to work, you have to get it right. The music has to be right, the sound of it, the style, the tone, whatever it is that you're trying to pastiche or identify or show to an audience. It has to be. You have to get that right, and very often those are the things that I rehearse quite a lot beforehand. Some of the comedy maybe less so. I like to try and see how it falls out on the night. I have an idea, a kind of the subject I'm talking about, but it's not fixed. Whereas the music and the sound sections have to be quite sort of set in stone and rehearsed.